Hello and welcome back to Album of Horses. This is a book by Marguerite Henry and illustrated by Wesley Dennis. This is part 5, as you can see from the little place card here. I need that for when I upload these to YouTube, so I can just look at the screen and say, oh hey, this is part 5. I guess I know where this one goes. And this is an actual copy. Yeah, there's been some pen marks on it because it's a second-hand copy, but this is an actual copy of the book from 1965. And let's see what we'll be reading about today. I'm going to go here and find here. Last time we talked about the American saddle horse and the Tennessee walking horse. In this one, we'll be reading about the Hackney and the Percheron, both of which are beautiful. And it looks like we're getting into the draft horses too, because in Belgian and Clydesdale-Shire and Suffolk Punch. Oh my gosh. I'm really excited about this because we're getting in some really good horses here. Okay, and here we are to the Hackney. Look at these nice little pictures first. Okay. The Hackney is a high stepper. Even going off on a picnic, he lifts his knees and hawks to incredible heights, as if Judge's eyes might be peering out at him from every leafy bough. He is born of the show ring, and so inbred is his exaggerated action that he never lets down. Families may forget their own comforts on picnics. Sometimes even spoons and paper cups and a cushion for mama are left at home, but the needs of the Hackneys are seldom overlooked. From colthood on, they must be pampered because the show ring calls for a fine silky coat and a docked tail. At the height of the picnic, when the children and grown-ups are slapping mosquitoes, the Hackney stays cool and regal in their fly-scrim hoods and sheets. They nibble daintily on the leaves of some tender young tree, while an adoring boy and girl shoo away the flies. No sultan on his throne or queen on her couch could have more solicitous attendants. Docktails cause extra work for owners and grooms, but the custom of such long-standing that it... Oh. Let's see. Docktails cause extra work for owners and grooms, but the custom is of such long-standing that it just goes on. Actually, the tails of a Hackney, if left alone, would be big and bushy, entirely out of keeping with his sleek elegance. It is an ill wind, however, that blows nobody good, and in at least one instance, tail docking helped to make a champion. Captivation was a twitchy, nervous filly with a tail as bushy as a squirrel's. Every time the wind blew, it whipped that tail around her flank and sent her into a frenzy. She acted as if each individual hair gave off an electric shock, but with her tail docked and with gentle training, she lost her nervousness and became the darling of the show rings. Whenever the ringmaster began separating the blue ribbons from the others, she would step right out to meet him, knowing she had already won. At Madison Square Garden, at the Chicago International, at all the major shows, you see two types of Hackneys: the big, bold horses and the dainty little ponies. Both are registered in the same stud book. Both are bred for the show ring, and both are built so similarly that the horses look like blown-up pictures of the ponies. Full made they are, stoutly built in proportions to that height, with rather short legs of, let's continue, of immense power. Yet in spite of their robust build, horses and pony both are full of jauntiness and grace. It is no trick at all to find a well-matched pair, because many are chestnut or brown with snowy white socks. Those socks are washed so frequently that the moment a groom comes in sight with a bucket of suds, up comes a white forefoot. In England, where the Hackney originated, he was not always this clean. This cleanly washed and pampered pet. In the old coaching days, he splashed through the mud and mire until his white socks must have been a sight. The sorry condition for the roads may have prompted the Hackney to pick up his feet high. and his mud-matted tail may have prompted the coachman to dock it. Before these so-called roads were built, ancestors of the coach horse were ridden instead of driven. Often, besides their stout riders, they had to carry cages of live geese to market and return with farm tools and skipples of salt. Not to mention dolls and fripperies. With all these burdens, they managed to show speed at the trot, and they were called Old Norfolk Trotters for the country in which they were bred. Okay, I need to adjust myself here. The Old Norfolk Trotter was as good and substantial as a loaf of bread. Then horse fanciers decided more yeast was needed. They wanted the loaf to rise higher, and so they mated their good Norfolk mares with spirited sons of the Darley Arabian. The result was a horse of animation and speed, a lively and high-going stepper. The breed caught on like fire in the wind. In fact, the whole line of descendants was called the Fire-Aways. America began importing them at once, and they became the fashionable park steppers, driven by daring young dandies known as whips. The coming of railroads might have put an end to the Hackney's career if in the spring of 1893 England had not held a magnificent Hackney exhibit. There were hackneys in hand and hackneys in harness, and they enthralled spectators with their powerful action fore and aft. Almost from that date on, the Hackney was bred for exhibition purposes, and he took to his new role with relish. He seemed a born showman, and the age only whetted his zeal for the spotlight. At 14, the famous cadet commander displayed as much fire and flash as at his first show. And the judges liked him just as well. In fact, many hackneys seem to go better with a little age on them. Preparation for the show ring takes years. The hackney's real training begins at the age of 3, when many racehorses are retired. Day after day, at the end of a long rein, he trots around and around in a great circle. It is months before he is even hooked to a cart, and years before he is ready for the ring. Appearance is almost as important as action, and the Hackney stables are 24-hour-a-day beauty shops. In every stall, all up and down the aisle, the ponies and horses have their tails done up, their tails set, so they will look very jaunty. In the show ring, a pony with heavy jowls is tied up in a jowl strap, much like a lady in a chin strap. The too plump pony wears a leather muzzle over her own to keep her from nibbling between meals. The big hackney with the leather bib under his chin is a worrier. He worries and picks at his night clover unless he wears a bib. Hear the wood rattlers? Those are anklets made of large wooden beads. Of course, the ponies try to kick them off, and in so doing raise their knees and hocks extremely high. All unknowingly, they are turning up their action. It is good to know that most hackneys do not need ankle rattlers. The main part of their action is natural. A colt of 6 weeks sometimes dances around his mother, knobby-kneed, almost bumping his chin whiskers. But some youngsters grow lazy as they grow up, and they are the ones that respond to trainers' riggings. With regular sash cord, the trainer ties an overshoe on each of the colt's fore hoofs and threads the cord through rings on the belly band. Presto! He has a fine and action developer as any colt needs. Now, with the cord slack out of the stable, he goes for his first high-stepping lesson. The trainer clucks softly, and as the colt raises his left leg, he steps out. He pulls up on the cord with studied care. The colt, without any effort on his part, lifts his leg a tiny fraction higher than normal. The instant he lets his leg down, the trainer releases the cord and then helps to pull the other leg up. Away they go around the ring. For the left foot, pull up, release. For the right foot, pull, up, release, left, right, left, right. The lesson is only a few minutes long today, a few minutes more tomorrow. And then one day the cord is left hanging on its peg in the stable. And now comes the test. The owner and the groom gather around. The trainer tries to cluck as if this day were no different from all the others. The long second, and suddenly the colt starts off. Straight up goes the left foot, 20 inches in the air. Then the right, its exact twin of motion. Up, down, go the violent little trip hammers. The miracle is complete. Our colt has graduated, and his diploma is a nice long carrot, complete with greens and all. The trainer's face broadens into a grin, and he heaves a great sigh of relief. In this one moment, all the monotony of daily discipline is washed away. From today on, the pattern of high action is impressed upon the colt's mind, and muscles forever. But training days are not over. As long as he is traveling the show circuit, a great Hackney, like a great athlete, has to keep in trim, showman and champion to the end. And now we are ready for the Percheron. I love draft horses. They're just amazing. So we are going to read about the Percheron. It looks like somebody's vaulting. I believe that's what that's called, where you basically stand on a horse while it's galloping, which is crazy. I've never actually seen it, but it's just fascinating. Okay, so we got some pictures here of some beautiful Percherons. One of my favorite color combinations is that one. In the backyard of the circus, a dapple gray keeps one ear tuned for the bugle call. The bugle is his clock. It rings an alarm bell inside him, starts off his real day. Soon now, any time now, he listens, grinding his hay slowly, ears pricked. There it is, the sweet brassy discord. Ta-ta, tee-tee-tee, ta-dee-dum-dum. He let the wisp of hay fall to the sawdust, then shudders his coat, almost preening it. Preening is a way of saying, I'm ready. All up and down the horse tent, the animals are listening to the stabbing notes. Thoroughbreds are pawing the sawdust, snorting and neighing, but the gray stands quietly, anticipating the chain of events, each in precisely the right order. At sight of his groom, he plants his feet solidly, lowers his head, letting big hands rub rosin on his back, enjoying the feel of long sweeping strokes from withers to tail again and again. Next, the girth strap is fastened around his belly, while out in the big tent, the band strikes up, noisy, throbbing, brasses wide open, playing the people in. Melody after melody floats out of the big top. Then a lull, and again the bugle. The gray recognizes his second call. He strides boldly out of his tent, heading for the back door of the big top, almost pulling his groom along. The show is on, the grand spectacle first. Then the waiting for his cue. He nods a little to the music of other acts. A slow tango, a one-step, a mazurka, now the merry-go-round waltz, while elephant bulls dance around their pedestal. This is his cue. This is it. He canters into the center ring, his spotlight following him, and now the band is playing his piece. The lilt and the rhythm are for him. With a swinging gait, he abandons himself in the 4/4 part of dance ballerina dance. Around and around the ring he goes, never changing pace, never faltering, never sensing the peanuts, the popcorn, the people, or paper bags crinkling, or children crying, or a stray dog hightailing it over a tent pen. Not even the pink lady pirouetting on his back. She is no more than a butterfly for him. Oh, no, for him is only the roundness of the arena and the same number of paces each lap, around and around, and forever around, until the melody explodes into a finale, then stops altogether. The dapple gray stops too. A moist, tender hand is under his muzzle as he... Oh, this one's short too. Knew it would be. Okay, we're going to go over these pictures first. as he knew it would be. He licks it slowly, savoring the salty sweetness, while a roar goes up from the crowd, and a soft voice tells him that he has done his work well. Then it is over, and he is back in the horse tent, having his rosin makeup removed. With a sigh of contentment, he reaches down and picks up a wisp of hay he dropped when the bugle sounded. In the professional world of the circus, he is called Rosinback because his back and loins are always rubbed with rosin to keep the pink lady from falling off. His color may be either white or gray, so the rosin won't show on his back broad. His back broad, so it will form a wide landing place, and his disposition calm. For a sudden shy could mean death to the lady in pink. To the rest of the world, he is not a Rosinback at all. He is a Percheron, a big drafter who came to America from a tiny district in France. A small boy played a big part in bringing the Percheron to America. He was Mark Dunham, and he lived in a little village of Wayne in Illinois. One day in the year 1848, he and his father set off in their high spring buggy for the farmer's fair at Springfield. Young Mark, a lad with a lick of red hair and a freckle-dusted nose, fully expected to see high-stepping carriage horses and tough little work horses at the fair. He was not at all prepared to see as well a deep-bodied animal that had come all the way from France. He pressed close to the ring where the horses were being shown, and suddenly his breath caught in his throat. The handlers were running into the ring with stallions, and among the small American-born horses he spied a prodigious creature. Different from all others, it wasn't just his bigness, or the fact that he wore more ribbons in his tail and tassels in his mane, or that he trotted in as airily as if he were dancing around a maypole, or even that he could be the one horse that moved in step with the band. It was his power. He could crush a man with one hoof, yet he was docile as a pup. Mark pushed his straw hat back. In all his 6 years, he had never seen a stallion so big and grand. He wished he could pronounce the name Percheron, but the best he could do was shorten it to Perch. So, for days afterwards and for years, Mark thought about the wonderful horse at the fair, and when he grew up, his thoughts amounted to something. He set sail for France and sought out the tiny district of La Perche. There he discovered rolling pasture land with whole meadows of alfalfa and clover. The horses that grazed on it were strong in bone and sinew and muscle. They were every whit as magnificent as his perch at the county fair. Some were gray and some were shiny black, and the finest specimens were branded with two interlaced letters P and S, showing they had been approved by the Percheron Society of France. Mark Dunham asked questions as if he were still a freckle-faced boy. Which color was better, the black, the gray? The Frenchman shrugged. The blacks, they explained, were preferred by certain coach drivers of the old days who didn't want to be forever cleaning their horses. The grays were preferred by other drivers because they could be seen in the dark of night and were safer to drive. So Mark Dunham bought some of each, seven in all, and had them shipped to America. Picture the excitement in the little village of Wayne when a freight train pulls into the station and down the runway come 7 horses, weighing a ton apiece. Mark Dunham is talking to them in French, trying to make them feel at home, as he leads them clippity-clop down the lane past a little red schoolhouse and clippity-clop past a little white church. Later he lined that very line. This is confusing. Later he lined that very lane with elm trees, the same kind he remembered seeing in La Perche, and he planted alfalfa and clover and built red barns like the ones in France. Then he bought more and more Percherons, 300 and 400 in some years, until Wayne became the Percheron center of the United States. Today the branches of the elm trees he planted meet overhead and interlace like the P and the S of the Percheron Society. Some of the big red barns are still standing too, and the descendants of those Percherons are scattered over the United States and Canada. They are plowing and hauling heavy loads and trotting to wagon the powerful animals of the farm. Of course, not all are workhorses. Some are dapple gray rosinbacks awaiting their cues in the backyard of the circus. That was about the Percheron. Next, we will be reading about the Belgian. We have Belgians around here in this part. I love them. And the Clydesdales. Oh, man. This is going to be awesome. But, yeah. That has been the Album of Horses by Marguerite Henry and illustrated by Wesley Dennis. If you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe and that you ring the bell so you know when I upload. I appreciate any and all support, and all that information will be in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, everyone. And as always, have a great day.